What's up, God?
There we go. Easy enough. What's up, man?
Yo, we did it. How's it going?
Well, how are you doing this Saturday evening?
Oh, doing good. Doing good. I was up at about 4:30 this morning, out of instinct. So I just got up from my old man nap to get this rocking and rolling.
Yeah,
So it's
definitely.
typical. It's not even just for this. It's like usually I fall asleep, in the middle of the day, get up, and then I'm ready to rock and roll some more. But yeah, it's just like I've been instinctively waking up, like I said, 4:30, 5 in the morning, and it's like, okay, how am I going to make the rest of this day count? Nap time.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I tend to have to go to bed at like, dude, I burn so hot. By the time I finally get everything done, it's like 4 in the morning.
Yeah,
And then luckily we don't have to get up super early, but then I'm still like old man napping in the middle of the damn day.
yeah. It takes all kinds. I got a guy who does a lot of my website stuff and things like that. We're always on the opposite schedules, and he's like up until 4, and I'm waking up at 4. It's good to have coverage at all hours of
Yeah,
the day. So it takes,
right,
that's why
right.
it takes all sorts of people.
So you absolutely blew me away last time we talked with the simple fact that I had no idea you and I had worked at the same commercial grow, almost soon after I left.
I think it
That
was like literally like a month after you were gone or something like that. I kind of filled the void or helped
so
fill the void anyway.
that place had a bad habit of turnover. And then what was even worse was after they let me go, my wife was still running the dispensary that I worked at for like another 6 to 8 months because she was so integral. They just couldn't just like, okay, we're letting both of you go. And bro, that had to have been one of the most awkward times of my life because we still had to deal with them no matter what. It was one of those where like she didn't have anything else. And that happened to me a couple of times where like I had another job at, just for the sake of being polite, very, very large chain company
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
still very much around.
Oh,
And
okay.
so we had gotten this deal. It was a package deal. We were both going to go work for this other concentrate company. And so it was a great deal. I was going to get to go do solventless again. Like I was super stoked. And then we literally quit our jobs. We were supposed to start the next day at this new place. And then they messaged us overnight and was like, listen, we're pretty much on a hiring freeze by OSHA because somebody died in our lab. And it was nothing to do with them. Dude had literally walked out the door going home and had a heart attack. And it was stupid random, but then they're literally like, we can't even bring you guys on. OSHA's pretty much said we can't hire anybody. And like, dude, there were a couple of those in the biz, like towards the end where it was like weird stuff would happen. And then you think you're about to go work it. Cause let's be honest, most of those gigs, we were always looking for the next better thing to come
Oh
along, you
yeah,
know?
exactly.
And that was kind of how you went at a lot of those places was like, always have something else, always have a backup plan, never assume this is going to be forever because very rarely did it last. So many of those, you take them, 6 months go by and you're already seeing the same shit you saw at the last place. Like we said, shit not getting purchased, people not buying supplies, you can't get up higher management on the phone.
Yeah, and then like, thank God for the side hustle. You know what I'm saying? It's constant. You got to like I always had the side hustle, so it was always like I always had that to fall back on, but you couldn't ever rely on those companies, that's for sure.
Yeah, if you worked weed in Denver, you had to have a side hustle and another side hustle. And, because even if you were doing pretty well at one of those places, it still was barely enough to live. Like Denver's such an expensive place to live. And so many of those kids, that's why so many people are only there for 6 months to a year.
Like yeah, and they burn you out. They expect the world without a thank you. But I mean, I was just happy to be in the weed industry, and I was trying to make the best of it. But some of these companies, they really made it hard to love love the industry. You know, the game is one thing, but the industry is another, and we all know that if we've been
Right.
in it. So yeah, it is kind of a small world situation where it was like, you know, I didn't know, you know, you from anybody. That was, you know, the earlier part of, I was just starting to do my breeding for myself. I'd been previously doing breeding for Greenpoint seeds, and it's kind of like muddling like the black market with the gray market with the green market. You know, it was like all kind of coming together, and that was kind of like that time that you were kind of busting out, you know, of the legal market, you know, and just
Right.
and getting back into the seed game, you know, and that was you were kind of just starting that, and we were very similar kind of in our journey of that seed portion. Now you had done a lot of stuff, you know, previously that I hadn't, and you continue to do a lot of things, but it was just interesting how it was like we were both kind of feeling like the heat of like we were trying to do the right thing. We were trying to like play the game that they wanted us to play, but it's like, hey, I'm here. I'm like, hey, like I'm your guy, but like when you actually played it out, they weren't playing by the rules and or weren't giving you the tools you needed to complete the task you needed, and expecting things that you couldn't deliver on without proper bodies, you know, proper employees
Right.
and proper, you know, SOPs and all these things. So to hear the kind of the words you were saying and the things you were saying is like, I experienced a lot of the same problems. And it was just kind of, you know, it was not cool to watch you go through those things, but I went through them too. And so I got it. And so when I
Yeah.
got the opportunity to, you know, to start, you know, when I saw the work that you were doing, I'm like, well, fuck them. You know, it's like, obviously you're doing great work, and you're doing things that people enjoy, and really impressive, you know, flowers and just the whole
Thank you.
gamut. And it just shows you that, I mean, it's nice, and I'm not, you know, downplaying. If you work in the industry, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Make it work and make it the best place you can.
Enjoy it while it lasts. Yeah.
That's what pushed me out, you know, and that's why it's really hard. I have my, you know, I still got this thing. I went and
Yeah.
renewed
Right.
it, you know, but I haven't used it because I don't, you know, so it's one of those things that's nice to have, but I don't bet on it. I bet on me. And it's kind
Yeah.
of, you're kind of the same way. You're the same
Yeah.
way. And I know a lot of the people that are the same way. It's like, we'll play, you know, the game as much as, you know, as we can. But
Yeah.
that's where it's like about 4 years ago, I got to the point. I was like, you know, I can make more money doing less work, you know, and or the same amount of money at very least, even with these, you know,
Yeah.
IG shutdowns and left, right, you know, credit card processor issues and all that. So,
So I
but
think
yeah,
I think one of the things that slapped me in the face, and this is coming from like having done the black market thing for so long before I moved out west, was that in that world you always expect everybody to fuck you. You expect that's just how life is.
yeah,
There's this air of, because it's legal, there was an air of almost credibility of like, this is legitimate, these are legitimate businesses, this is going to operate like a fully legitimate business, and that wasn't really what I saw, you
no,
know?
it was black market gone green, and there was, like I said, I always like to call it the gray market. There's a black market, the gray market, and the green market, you know, and a lot of those owners were skirting the law. Packs were going out the back door. I know I personally got a lot of big plants to go test at my personal grow that, you know, that I brought back testing from my personal grow, and they put it in
Oh,
metric
wow.
to get it tested, you know? So, I mean, in the end, I was, you know, helping out. I'm not going to say who this was, you know, but at the end they were doing me a favor. I was doing them a favor, but it was like, hey, let's just keep this on the DL. You take all the extra plants, give them a test, give me a gram to go sample or whatever, and that way we can get. It was, you know, we were doing some CBD hunting and things like that. So yeah, but at the end of the day, they weren't, not one grow that I've ever been to or facility that they were doing everything up by the up and up. So.
Right. And the other thing is, so many of them will use the guise of the corporate structure when it benefits them, but there's none of like when we really talk about a truly Fortune 500 corporate business, it doesn't look like even the most professional weed company I've ever been in. It's like there are certain things when it comes to HR and to employee safety and to making sure the product that you sell is safe and, you
That's
know, and
number
you
one.
know,
Yeah.
decent. And there's
Environment was
so,
key. Yeah. And
right.
they weren't
And
providing the
there's
proper
so
environment.
much that it just doesn't translate because there's no real structure behind it. The state is usually only tangentially involved, maybe at best. And so if that's the oversight, if the state is the oversight and they're so taxed on resources and employees and you know they can only really monitor the top 10% of grows size wise because let's be honest, the only thing that's important for them is that tax money.
Right.
So they're going to make sure the little place that doesn't pay all that much tax usually doesn't get as thoroughly audited and finger up the butt with paperwork and this, that, or the other, where the things that I saw in smaller grows compared to, you know, the way bigger grows had to be run, at least on a rules and regulations level, right? Because when it came to the smaller grows, there was shit I saw from people walking packs out to the cars to, you know, like spraying chemicals that were banned because they knew nobody was going to come and test them. And they knew enough about the chemical, you know, the half-lives and how long everything took to fully be out of the plant and stuff like that. And, you know, there was a lot of like in the biggest grows, there was a little bit more oversight because they know people are going to show up and they're going to want their tax money. So everything has to be by the book, fully legal, 150%. And some of the smaller grows were doing some shit that, like, you know, let's be honest, like, that's where all of the shady stuff happened because they knew nobody was going to show up. Nobody was going to give a shit. If you were
There's less eyes.
yeah,
There's less eyes
if you were a
overall.
20,000 square foot grow, nobody cared, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was
And the
involved in
thing
the
was,
same situation with spraying, and you know, no masks, and
yeah,
you know, and
yeah,
you know, I didn't even know what that the I was supposed to have special lights for the or special sunglasses for the lights. You know, I was just going
oh yeah,
nose.
yeah, yeah,
You know, my eyes were getting fucking burned for the first 9 months of me working in a grow.
yeah.
You know.
Well, you really shouldn't be under lights, but so many hours a
Oh yeah,
day. I mean, that's
yeah.
another
It was like
thing that we don't
constant.
talk about within the industry. For any of us that have done it for a long period of time, especially under artificial light for years and years and years and years, it's not a whole lot different than going to the tanning bed over and over and over,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like whether you burn every time for it or not isn't really the important thing. It's the constant exposure. And who knows how, you know, who knows, man?
Right.
That's one of those things we could all start getting to the later years of our lives and we all end up with skin cancer and we're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, or like different, different radiations and different just light exposures, or eyes, 'cause I know I was like getting these tracers when I was driving at night. I have bad night vision now. So like I get these tracers, like a light goes by, it fucking that line stays there, and like it happens 15 times. There's like my vision gets all fucked, and it's because of those HPS lights. So
yeah. And I mean, dude, and it's like, it's even funnier because one of the big things that LED companies advertise is the amount of UV light that they're able to replicate that's closer to sunlight. And it's like, let's be honest, the closer we get to true sunlight, the less good it is for any of us to be under these things for hours and hours and hours a day. Yeah.
A lot more waves going on. So I agree. And then, it's just, the amount of oversight that went into, the money in our paychecks was way, that was way more important than the day to day. Do we need, certain nutrients, or hey,
Right.
we don't want to spray Eagle 20, right? We want to spray these 3 products instead. And then, answers no, or, we don't have the proper PPE. We don't have the proper masks, the proper suits. Hey, we need to spray anyways. Get in there. Some of these things, I've seen them. I've been a part of them. And that's why I've moved on from certain grows, or, made decisions like, hey, is this something I really want to do? Because in order to be like a manager and be, kind of the upper up, you had to have. So I had to shave my beard. They made me shave.
Yeah,
They made me
that's
shave my beard
crazy.
to get a fit test. So I had to get a fit test, even though I wasn't the one spraying in that
That's
facility,
crazy.
I was the one that was going to have my, get the, my name on the fit test. You had to have one
Yeah.
person fit tested at the facility, and that was, and that was me. So I had to shave this all off. And like either, you drop down to, to assistant grower, or you keep your lead grower position and you shave your beard, and it was just all because of the, the corporate structure, like you said. I was like, fuck this, man. Because I didn't
So
want,
one of the things that we talked about last time when we did your podcast was the whole reason that I left the grow that you and I worked at, and it was largely because I wouldn't spray Eagle 20 on their weed. But there's another funny story that I haven't really told. So when I started there, they had a very close relationship with Nutrient Company X. Okay, I'll be very polite because these are good guys, and I work with them. Done work with, one of my good friends works with them. I don't want to knock
it's
anybody.
like we're not here to name names, just give information.
They had just started with this new nutrient line, and they were very proud of it, and they were trying to work with some larger scale grows. And the grow that you and I worked at, the big grow, essentially part of the problem was they had bought some stanky cocoa, and it was so bad that anything they put in it would die.
It wasn't buffered. It wasn't
So when I took
pH
over,
buffered. Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I couldn't tell you what it was. When you would water it, like to flush it, it just ran brown.
Yeah, because
and like clean cocoa won't do that.
It was
Clean
raw,
cocoa, there might be a little bit from particulate, but like it's not brown
from the fucking shipment, and they don't pH. They don't wash it. It should be like triple wash cocoa. Is like it was like a thing they used to advertise. Now it's like hope cross your fucking fingers. But yeah, that sounds like that's what the issue was.
So the other problem they had, and it took me a while to figure it out, because they gave me my own grow, and they were like, this is what you're going to use. And it was Pro Mix, which I'm not a huge fan of peat if we're running salt-based stuff. It was Pro Mix and this new nutrient line.
Yep.
And I said, okay, well, here's what's going to happen, right? Because what they wanted me to figure out how to make it work, essentially. Without saying that to me, they wanted me to fix this larger problem they were having.
Yeah.
So what I did was I did anything I could to figure out how to make this work. And I would take this nutrient. This is so messed up, and it would tell you how poorly made it was initially. I would take the nutrient, I would pour my beaker, and I would set it on the table, and it was like snow. You could watch the salt precipitating out of the mixture, and it literally would settle in a puddle on the bottom. So I went to the owner and I said, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to show you the solution to your problem. I'll tell you how to fix it using what you want to use. And then I'm going to get the nutrient line that I want, and I'm going to make this grow pop. He's like, all right. I literally showed him the same shit. And once again, they're not weed people, so they don't know what they're looking at. They don't understand that no nutrient should precipitate out. You shouldn't pour a glass of it, and you can watch salt separating in the matrix. Like, that's not how liquid nutrients.
It's not bound.
Right.
It's not bound properly bound mixture.
So I found the solution, and I told him too. I said, "What do you think if it's happening in the trial? What do you think is happening in your pot?" The exact
or your
same
tank,
thing.
You're mixing shit in and everything.
So it all settles to the bottom of your pot, and then when your plants dry out, they suck up as much of that they can as their roots contract, and now you're locked out. And it would happen every single time. So I came to figure out if we just overwatered, like what you or I would consider overwatering, when I would water, I would run so much nutrients through that whatever was sitting in the bottom of the pot got flushed out with it. No. And you can never really get settle at that point because it would just always move through. So then literally I showed them, they still, at the big, this is what's messed up, because that grow was 80,000 square feet. The big grow, I think 80 or 100,000 square feet.
Yep.
And with a grow like that, you can't just make snap decisions. Like, oh, we're going to try this new untested nutrient line, because you're losing millions of dollars. You know, a small thing like that would seem so trivial. Oh, we'll just try this new nutrients because they're giving them to us at a discount because they're new.
Right.
and because they're trying to get in the, a foot in the industry. Now they're one of the bigger names on the shelf, to be honest with you. And it was so messed up because I sat with the owners and I'm like, listen, man, I'm trying to tell you, like, the setup that you want to use is a guaranteed fail. Really running Pro Mix and salt-based nutrients in general is a fucking fail. It's a guaranteed way to end up with problems just because of the way that peat holds and releases things versus with cocoa, it's not the same, and you can't handle the two the same in a commercial grow because you're going to eventually make mistakes. You're going to eventually lock out, and once you do, immediately you lose money. The minute your plant's in a commercial grow lockout, you just lost money. And so I would tell them, like, listen, if you would just help me out and just switch to cocoa, you can still run the shitty nutrient that you want, and it won't be a big deal. Or if you just switch the nutrient to something else, like, something that's tested, something that's tried and true by this point, then you're going to have a better shot. And like, when you or I, or, the general casual public are talking about weed, most people think of weed from a home grower's perspective. They think of their grow at home or their closet. And like, when you're talking about a commercial grow, that's not same. Those are not the same things. So when you're talking about a commercial grow, you have to be very precise in how you do things. Every dollar matters. Having a minute that those plants are sick or, anything is lost money. And that's the one thing that, like, when you go to so many of these higher ups of these companies, you're like, listen, man, I want to save you money. Because if I save you money, eventually you're going to go, here's a little bit of that money for you. That's the thought, is that if you can fix things to the point where the people at the top are happy and everybody's making money, then that does, in a sense, that's how everybody starts to make more money in this business.
Right.
But so many places changed variables, employees, nutrient lines, mediums, adding extra lights, different light. And when you do that in a commercial grow, bro, there's no small problems. It's all magnified because it's so much bigger of a grow that it's like, I don't know. And I see that a lot with so many commercial grows. I see that a lot, whether it be, like you said, employees coming in and out every 12 to 18 months, or just, we're going to take a leap on some nutrient line that nobody ever heard of. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of challenges with the industry. I mean, like I said, God bless if you guys are still rocking and rolling in it. I mean, it's going to be there, no matter what. And I try to, I try to pump the positivity and the genetics that I can into the industry and help where I can. But yeah, I think it's interesting that we kind of came from the same place, literally, and experienced a lot of the same issues, and we're kind of doing a lot of the same things. I mean, rocking a lot of interesting flavors. I mean, I see you like working with, you got Thai in the I didn't know there was Thai in the pineapple sorbet. There's a lot of funkiness in what you do, and I'm just trying to do something interesting and just keep working with the plant and keep supporting, the family and doing what I love for a living. And like I said, I think that's the main goal here. I think that's what a lot of us are about now. Is like, we're not necessarily trying to be a part of what they want to do. Like, we were here kind of before, and we'll be here after the Chads and the Brads and the big money grow and the big money grows. I mean, and hopefully we can be a part of some of the positive change in the industry, kind of looking in, like, hey, I don't want to play exactly every single day with you here, but like, I see what you're doing, and maybe there's something I can do to help. And if there's not, I'll stay out here. And there's certain grows that I've either helped or gotten genetics in, or they've given genetics to me. A lot of like still good relationships that I have with people in the industry. So it's one of those double-edged swords. Like, I don't necessarily want to like put my heart and soul into the legal industry, so much, because it has burned me like it has you, and like it hurts, and your wife has been in it too. My wife has luckily been out of it and not having to like be directly affected like I have. She's like works, she does, you know, customer support and does like, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
other things that have nothing to do with cannabis, and she could care less half the time. But when you have two people that are in it and getting punched around like a punching bag inside the fucking washing machine, you know, that's how I was. That's what happened to me, and I'm sure it was happening to you guys too on both ends. The, you know, production side, the packaging side, the retail side. It
Yep.
kind of it went hand in hand with. I've you know, made relationships with a lot of people, and they're like, yeah, man, it's no different on this side. You know, it's still corporate bullshit.
Yeah,
Um,
it's almost worse because there's all of the bureaucratic stuff that you or I deal with, and then there's customers, which is a whole, you know, when you start dealing with like the front of house in a dispensary, you get all of the bureaucratic shit that you or I would deal with in the grow, but they don't get to go vanish in the grow for 8 hours a day and just
right.
talk to plants. Like they have to sit and deal with people who then are usually pissed off. They're usually, you know, happy customers are usually shopping at places where everything's going well, and pissed off customers end up going to places where everything's cheap because they know it's cheap. They know it's garbage, but they're still making, you know, it's cheap.
Yeah,
Let's be honest. It ends up
yeah,
being cheap.
they're trying to get that cheap ounce or whatever. Yeah, and like I saw somebody in the chat said like I'd still like to at least see how I could help, and as long as I can get in with a good grow, and don't let us like, you know, there's other states, there's always a new grow, there's always a better manager than we had. So like, don't let our experience like 100% scare you away from the industry. Just like be
Just keep your
aware.
eyes
Just
out.
be
Just keep your
aware.
eyes out.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Yeah.
keep your head on a swivel and like be ready for these things to come. And when they don't come, that's when you get surprised and you get excited and say, this is the right place. And they give you the opportunity
Yeah.
to make
Yeah,
change,
absolutely.
and be so. But there's a reason why we're sitting over here, and there's a lot of people that have gotten in the industry and out of the industry over the last 10
Yeah.
years in Colorado.
One of the things that you mentioned that I've seen happen a lot from friends. It happened to me a couple of times. It happened to me at the grow that we both worked at, was bringing genetics in. And so for a seed popper, for somebody who's, you know, as passionate about seeds as we are, it's usually easier to buy them than it is to pop them all. And so we end up with this situation where we have all these crazy genetics that we've accumulated and collected, and, you know, and like baseball cards and Pokemon, we chased them down and we got them. And we might not get to all of them. And as soon as you have access to a commercial grow like that, and you're like, you know what, I can just pop
My seeds.
crazy, I can pop shit that, you know, the 100-acre woods now, let's go.
Yeah.
And so many people bring on genetics into places. And so the place that you and I worked at, towards the end, I was given another grow, which was around the corner from the grow that I had, and it was going to be all breeding. It was just a small one-room grow. I was going to veg in the spot and flower in the spot, and we were going to kind of move stuff in and out as we needed to, you know, with our personal grows and stuff like that. And so I brought in a ton of genetics. They brought on a bunch of genetics along with what they already had. They had purchased a bunch of seeds. And so I popped all this stuff, got them all to healthy veg plants. And that was about the time they moved me away from my plants. And I've seen that story happen to so many people. So many of my good friends that have taken higher up positions in grows, they get that access where they can just run. I'm not going to throw any grows under the bus. If you hit me, if there's anything here that you want to know on a personal level, I will tell you any of it. You know, just hit me up in the DMs, and I'll tell you every grow I ever worked for and exactly why, you know, how it went. But I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. I don't, it's just not. Publicly, it doesn't do any of us any good. And throwing mud at this point, you know.
Yeah. We want to talk about the broad ideas and the broad, lessons to be learned here. We're not looking to like bash anybody personally or like make anybody feel some type of way, because we were in that situation. There were certain people in certain situations, you know, surrounding all that. So like, even we don't want to taint you to like one company either. So like, company names, we try to leave all that out. But that's what the Discord's for. I gotta say,
Yeah.
we just like we
Yeah.
let it
Anything
fucking rip in the Discord
goes. If
because
you
it's
hit me
not
up,
just
I'm very
yeah,
open. It's just these all end up on YouTube for
that
posterity,
and
which
that's
means
it.
they last forever. And the honest truth of it is, a lot of what I've seen and what I've been through, I will tell people because I'm not sucking on that teat anymore. I don't have a vested interest in not speaking the truth about what I've seen and the way I've seen people treated and some of the things that have happened in commercial grows. But at the same time, like, yeah, it just doesn't. Let's put it this way. I've done enough mudslinging for 10 lifetimes, and I've kind of learned it doesn't end up benefiting me in the end. So there's just
Yeah,
a little bit of like, while it does feel good in the moment to get that off your chest about how you were treated and name names and, go the whole 9 yards, there really is a lot of it. It just doesn't help you
and
long term.
that's growth. When I was first, when you first get hurt, you do the same exact thing. I did the same exact thing, and you want to shout it from the rooftops, but it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help you,
Yeah.
especially just to like internalize it, learn from it, and then hopefully teach a few other
Yeah.
people and then move on. Because like the goal of
Hopefully,
this thing
hopefully it
is
was
happiness.
yeah.
I'm not trying to carry that shit with me.
Hopefully it was a cheap lesson.
Yeah, exactly. Moving right along. We're not no naming names today, but hit him up in the DMs or personals if you guys
But so what I was
want the dirt.
saying was, I've seen so many people do that, though. They get to those higher up positions. I'm a manager now. We can get stuff into metric. We finally figure out that trick, right? And so you go, I can finally see all these flavors that I've been dying to see forever. Now we can just pop stuff. And so, I've seen so many people. And then there's two sides to it, because that's how strains stay forever, is they finally get a large enough audience that somebody loves it, enough people love it. So like when it comes to my gear, I always tell people, if you're working at a dispensary and you want stuff to pop and you're thinking about going into your gear, like your personal collection or stuff that you've stashed, or don't do it. Just hit me up. I'll send you gear to run. Because for me, that's the most beautiful thing that could ever happen, is somebody takes my gear and runs a ton of it in a dispensary, and whoever thinks they're benefiting from it, I'm the one that benefits in the end.
Yeah.
So it's like, while they think they're getting one over on you and ha ha ha, and the truth is that like that happened all over Oklahoma, because I had homies that all left Colorado and went and took grows in Oklahoma, and they all brought on my gear, and then most of them had the same shit happen to them that we've all had happen. And 12 months, 18 months, 2 years later, nobody's there anymore that started when you started, and everybody's been moved out of the door. But my strains are still crushing it in Oklahoma, man. And I love it. I love it, because Oklahoma's been, since they went legal, they've been a great state for, people that want to pop seeds, that are super interested, that are super down,
But yeah, exactly. I feel the same way. Like, I still pump as much genetics into dispensaries as possible when given the opportunity. And, I'm getting certain cuts and certain strains out at different grows, at Area 420, at Euflora in Denver, a couple other places that are starting to grow my stuff. And, the more, like I said, I had some places I had a place out in New Mexico that won first place with my Taste the Rainbow. And their sativa dominant hybrid competition out there, blew some minds with the terpenes, and they really like opened up people to like the Taste the Rainbow. They're like, oh, this must be something awesome. Well, the people who've been growing it for the last 4 years already know that, but like now it kind of gives you like, oh, okay, a little bit of more credibility, like opens people's eyes to like, okay, these are winning cups. These, that's the benefit of
right.
the industry. It kind of gives the people like us, like people that smoke our stuff and grown our stuff, they fucking know. They just know like certain things, like that, the flavors, certain things that hit about us, but not like, that's where you say, that it kind of gives you a little bit more of a voice,
Right.
So if you can get in with the right dispensaries,
Just
get in
access.
with and just access, and even, and that's if they give you credit. I've had places not give me credit
That's
before. Like
shit too.
they grow
That's a risk.
my shit out, and they put whatever name they want on there, and they don't say anything about me, and then I just happen to know it's mine. So it's like that's why you get in with people that are just do what they say and say what they do.
Yeah, that's one thing that it's kind of funny, and I think that's in one way has kept metric has kept people honest because so many dispensaries would just change the name of everything to name it whatever they feel like. But like once it's something in metric, we all know there's tricks and there's ways around that. But like most places are super by the book with their numbers and with metric and stuff like that. And like a lot of the places that I worked at wouldn't, there it was also a size thing. Like once again, if you're running 100,000 square foot grow, they're going to eventually show up, stick their finger all in your books and your business, and look everywhere they can because that's where they make the most money. But most places were pretty by the book with metric and stuff. And so once it's in metric as a strain with its own strain name, then usually that's when you can really start to, get it into places and get a little more credit for what you're doing, especially if you have names that are somewhat creative and, it's not just sounds like every other cookie cross and nobody's going to remember that anyway. But some of my biggest strains that picked up to the largest audience were stuff that, picked up in a dispensary. Somebody was able to go buy it in flour and hash, and they fell in love.
Right.
And that's the biggest audience you can get to. And let's be honest, being prolific in the seed game is just about how many people's hands can you put finished product in.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
And it's like if you have an opportunity as a breeder to have a relationship with somebody with a big grow, it just comes down to how many people can you get to finish your weed, to smoke your weed. Because let's be honest, man, if you're really breeding strains that people love, if you just put it in enough people's hands, somebody's going to love it. People are going to love it. People are going to pick it up, Whereas if it just tastes like every other thing and it's just 30% weed for 30% weed's sake, and it's like those strains are done.
The terps are flat.
Yeah,
people really want something different, like, they can go buy whatever they need, they can go buy basic ass shit from their local dispensary. That's why people are, buying, special stuff, and even those dispensaries too, they want different stuff. I've had more dispensaries. I want more of your narrow leaf varieties. I want more of your 13 weekers, 15 weekers. We're pushing it for our patients, things like that. I'm getting more of those people reach out to me, and it's like,
that's a rarity, especially commercial. Yeah.
It's a very encouraged, and they're new. They're like, a lot of these people are they're doing it the first year, second year. But when these Green Fuego guys out of New Mexico, they're relatively new. They picked up my stuff based on a good word that someone gave them. Popped just a 10-pack, and they want a cup, and they were like, and then they went back and bought like $1,000 worth of my seeds, and I hooked them the fuck up. They won't, they got Pheno Hunter packs on Pheno Hunter packs, I'm like, let's find you the fucking winner, and they're excited, and I'm excited. Let's go win you, all the cups. And that's like what it's about. Like, they're growing salts, they're doing their thing. I mean, that's not necessarily my growing method, but they give me the platform and I give them the genetics, and it's like hand in hand, and like, I'm trying to hook them up. But then also I had this smaller grow out of Maryland they're just coming online. And they're like looking to get, the wide range. They're looking to get like the 9-week couch lock or 8-week couch lock. And they're looking to get like the 15-week super, enlightening sativa and everything in between. And I just got them a big fucking bulk order, and they said, we trust you. We want something on this spectrum and something on this spectrum. And you give us everything in between. And it was like, I was like a kid in a candy store trying to pick out what I got for him, and I fucking hooked him up and gave him like all kinds of different flavors. But it's refreshing to see some grows are trying to broaden that spectrum and look for more flavors, because they're getting tired of that shit, that same old shit too. So like, but there's always going to be that big grow pushing the cookies. So, but that's
an epiphany. I had an epiphany while we were talking. So we have the discussion a lot. You and I probably had it. If we chatted before, it tends to come up right along with Cow Mag, every chat I have. Another reason why Blue Dream is so popular in commercial gardens, and it's because it's technically a sativa, and dispensaries can offer it as a sativa, and it throws down, as far as weight.
And it's a shorter flowering sativa, and it's resistant to pests and pathogens. It's PM resistant. If you've ever grown it next to Bubba Kush, you know that Bubba Kush
Visually
gets that
pretty.
fucking PM.
It's
It's
visually pretty.
beautiful. It smells very floral. I mean, some people hate it because it was so fucking prolific. You know why it was prolific? Fucking the growers loved it. The people loved it. Everyone loved it. It grew awesome. It didn't get PM. It didn't get bud rot. It chunked the fuck up. It finished in 9 weeks sometimes. Sometimes you could push it to 10 if you really wanted to have it go finish all the way.
It's
But like
the
it was
only
one of the
strain I've actually seen throw pound a light or, 3 a light. I'm sorry, 3 a light, and legitimately throw arm-sized colas
oh
that were as big around as
yeah
a
just
small dinner plate.
yeah, and you could grow massive blue dream plants, and it was a great breeding stock for me personally. I took it. I liked the way it was really resistant to PM. So like a lot of these more cushy strains, they're not as resistant. Like Bubba Kush and things like that. So I hit it with like the Afghan and made like a back cross with it. So I kept it around because I really like that Santa Cruz cross. Now, granted, I didn't want to. I haven't worked with it since, but like it is good like backbone like
One of
genetics for like.
the things that I've noticed with it as breeding, and not, I haven't ever worked with it, but just in when I see other people work with it, I think the immediate thought is that if I hit this to something else, it's going to guarantee it's going to yield
Yeah,
well. But I've seen so many people have mixed results with
that's true.
F1s made with Blue Dream as the cut, where you inherently think, oh, well, it's got all these amazing traits. Surely it's going to cross well, right? It's got trikes and it's got all this stuff. It's this, that, and the other. And the reality is it doesn't really work in F1s the way people think it does. Like, it's not going to throw, you're not going to get massive, massive nugs guaranteed with
Not a
just better
guarantee.
profile.
No, you got to have the strong male and all that stuff. And what I really liked about it, aside from all the other things we listed, was the pest or the PM
Oh, yeah,
resistance.
it's PM
So
resistant as hell, yeah.
I specifically used it for that reason in the Afghan lines because some
And
of
I
the
think this.
Afghans
Oh, go
were
ahead.
not
I'm sorry.
PM
I'm sorry.
resistant. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're good.
I think a lot of that, aside from being, there's something inherently there. I think a lot of it too is because of the bud structure. Even though there's huge buds, they're very open. Like, they're
Fluffy.
not dense like a heavy indica, and they're really yeah, they're really fluffy. And so it just airflow. It just, you get so much better airflow through the actual cone of the nug, through the center of the bud.
Yep, yeah, that's true.
I did not anticipate taking this to a Blue Dream off. I keep joking. Me and my buddy Drew keep saying we're going to do an hour, and we're just going to steel man. We're going to play the steel man and the Devil's Advocate, and just, you play the steel man, sell me Blue Dream as hard as you can, because we have this discussion, and this is one of those cliched discussions that we've all had so many times as growers about, yeah, but my buddy's got this cut and it throws down 3 a light, and it's striked out, and it's a 10 week, 9 weeks, and we can,
Yeah,
and all of the arguments are true.
yeah,
All
yeah,
the arguments are true. For everybody that loves Blue Dream, you're valid. But the
yeah.
opposite is also
That,
true. The
well,
opposite in inverse is also true.
yeah.
It's not getting anybody high as shit. It's
No,
not
it's
going to
not.
get you baked off your ass. The profile, when it cures, is just generic sweet. You're lucky if any of
Flat.
that blueberry stuff that's there when it's alive transfers through to the finished product. So it reminds me of Sweet Tooth a lot. Like, when we used to run a lot of Sweet Tooth,
It's like
the
not
reason it was, it chunked, but it just, the buds were never that great, and it always had this
exactly
generic sweet profile,
like the white.
and the trikes were garbage. The trikes on both Sweet Tooth and Blue Dream are garbage. Like, they don't make great hash. They throw down, but the quality of the hash is never good.
Yeah,
With Sweet Tooth, it was the same. It was all stem. It was all stalk. Like, there was almost no head to it. And so when you'd wash it, there'd be almost nothing, or you'd get a bunch of mash in your 120 high mic, and then it would all be 25.
yeah. I don't know much about the washing side of it, but I will say that like flavor matters, and obviously potency matters.
Yep.
Like you can be fooled by the look of a plant. Just because a plant looks super frosty does not mean it's gonna wash well or smoke well. Like
Right.
I said, So that was, and Blue Dream is one of those, if you don't cure it right, it basically ends up tasting like hay or
Hey.
best sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're never getting that
Yeah.
blueberry. So, and there's a reason why I only used it one time in one breeding project, so, but
was
I did want to hold on to a piece of it because it was something special. It is something special. It helped build a lot of grows. It helped
so
really,
many people would tell you it paid for their
the
family.
growers know, man. The growers know that Blue Dream throws down, and it didn't matter what the fucking customer had to say. That's what they were growing. We were growing this, and this is what's happening. We're pushing pounds of this for 5 years. You guys are gonna get so tired of it. They're gonna make memes about it, and then we're gonna dip. 10 years it went down.
Somebody just said the white is like OG light. That's how I always describe cookies. I always describe the Girl Scout cookies forum cut as OG light. Like it's OG for people that don't really want to sneeze because there's so much gas terps.
Yeah, I was just saying the white was one of those. We did a big seed pop of the white, right? We did 150 seed pop of the white because that's where everything was. Everything was super frosty, and you got down to it. It didn't smell like anything, and it didn't get you high, and it was 14% weed. They tested it. It was
What?
Yeah, just the ones we had. That's over. But yeah, that was it was that's for better or for worse. I got into the industry and on the R&D side, and they were popping seeds, seeds nonstop. So it was that's what I thought the cannabis industry was. It was we're gonna find the best new thing. We're gonna pop 50 different strains, 100 different strains, 200 different strains, 50 to 100 seeds of each, and we're gonna fucking rock this. We're gonna clone everything out. We're gonna pheno hunt. I thought that's what the industry was.
This.
And it's
I gotta touch this. So he says breeding. This is exactly what I was about to say. Breeding with the white made your weed pretty. So the truth is, the white, purple punch, slurricane, they are not worth their weight in anything but breeding stock. Because any of those three strains, you hit something super terpy to it, you're almost guaranteed it's going to wash well. You're almost guaranteed it's going to make amazing hash. And those three are almost a cheat code to breeding. When you see somebody hitting anything to purple punch, to slurricane, or to the white, the only reason they did it is for trichomes. Because it's dominant for those beautiful pops right off the plant trichomes.
And
problem with the white was all three of them, they're just bland profiles by themselves.
And so the purple punch, there's certain cuts out there that are super purple, and they do have that sweetness to them. They don't have a lot of punch behind them. They don't have a lot of THC, but
super bland.
The cut that I got that made the Peruvian punch was the exact same thing that you're saying. It's just great breeding stock, and it pushed that strain kind of over to it looks awesome. It has huge trikes. It's a bigger, chunkier nug. It's purple. It yields a lot of purpleness. It yields a lot of those. And I think that's where a lot of my lavender and things like that come from out of because it was purple punch, Mendo breath, Peruvian heirloom. So that purple punch really brought a lot of those things. It's just ubiquitous through the line. We're working F3 right now. But it wasn't one of those ones that you want to keep around by itself. But man, that breeding stock, like you said, it really elevated that strain.
All three of those strains, nobody's going to write home about the profile of slurricane. Nobody's going to tell you they had the dankest strain they've ever had in their lives, and the terps were just unbelievable, and you just can't get it out of your mouth. And what's the name of the strain? Oh, slurricane. No, slurricane is only around because it makes amazing crosses, and the weed, even the slurricane, is frosty as hell. Frosty is, it's just, and like I said, it's a sort of strain where when you're trimming it, you just notice there's piles of keef everywhere, and they just separate if you look at them. And it's the same with Purple Punch. Nobody's ever going to say Purple Punch was the terpiest strain ever. But when you hit Purple Punch to a daddy that has super, super heavy terps, you're gonna win. You just won a cup. You just had the cheat code to winning cups, because that's literally the last couple of years. A lot of the best hash strains have one of those three in them, and you know it's just at that point finding the exact one that has the flavor too.
Exactly, and that's why, you know, crossing things and hunting them, crossing things and hunting them, and picking the ones that really stand out. They got to hold their weight, you know, literally and figuratively.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
but you can't pick like the sweetest. You know, you can't pick like the best smelling one if it doesn't yield anything. I mean, if you want to keep that around for your personal stash, that's great. But me personally, it's like just gotta check all the boxes. It's
Yeah,
gotta
right.
like veg well when I top the shit out of it and strip it down and bend it down. Does it bounce back? Does it fucking give up on life? You know, all those things factor into my selection. So like by the time I'm popping usually, you know, larger numbers of seeds and I'm like doing heavy selections, but like, you know, but by the time I get to the end of it, the ones that are left are pretty fucking beastly. And then if it's like, if they really have a distinct terpene profile, you know, that's the fun part. You know, otherwise it's like next, and I've done that a lot, you know, but that's the
Yeah.
fun of the hunt.
At a certain point, you have to be a little more like, you know, it's one of those things that kind of comes with experience in the business, whether it be growing, whether it be, excuse me, breeding, just having a more discerning eye, but being willing to look at a plant and say, I just don't like the way you
That
look.
look.
Bye. Yeah, I just don't.
Well, like
You're just not looking at me right.
if
Bye.
you've grown commercially and you have been in charge, you know, and you take the clones and you veg the things, if they're not fucking participating and everything else is fucking killing it, peace. I got a fucking show to run. You know what I'm saying? I don't have
Hopefully you
time
took
for this.
hopefully you took 20% more than you needed, like a real OG. Because if you're especially in cloning, that's one of those things in commercial grows, like having backup clones is so clutch. And
Oh
so
yeah.
many times I've seen a place lose a whole cloner, or like get to where they're going and not have 20% enough because they had to throw some duds and throw some, you know, and it's life's too short to drag plants that aren't healthy, man.
Yeah, and I've managed facilities or came into facilities where, like, just like you said, the previous person in charge of the clones just fucked everything up,
And that's where it all
you
starts.
know. And then I come in and it's like everything's fucked, and here's the football, run. And then you're like, okay,
Oh
well, we
yeah.
need to solve these
Nobody,
15 problems.
none of us,
The
none of
labeling,
us
you know,
ever took
this plant
over.
is, yeah,
I'm sorry.
no one ever took over. No, yeah, no one ever took over a good grow, right?
Nobody ever took over a perfect grow. It
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
exist. Like usually by the time we got called in, it was triage. There was blood
yeah.
on the wall. There was bones everywhere. There was
There's
parts of bodies.
there's
And like you
bugs.
said, here's the football. You better get running.
Yeah, get running. There's 15 people trying to tackle you. Nobody's blocking, and go. But yeah, it was one of those things where I was managing a place that had literally over 150 different individual strains, and half of them were all mixed up. And part of my job, because at that point I'd been in the industry for about, you know, almost 10 years, and I had seen a few plants, you know, and I, you know, managed, you know, larger facilities or seen a lot of different strains, and the strain list that they gave me, I'm like, oh yeah, I know a bunch of these strains. I could typically tell by the way they were growing whether that was that plant or not. Like, oh, that's definitely not one of these based on these characteristics. And it was like it was kind of a fun thing. It's like a constant pheno hunt, trying to see if things were the thing that they said they were. Because the previous person had taken clones of certain strains, and, you know, lots of strains, and then mislabeled them. So there was like it was like a hodgepodge of fuckery. And you think you were taking, you know, 150, you know, blue dream cuts, and then you put them into flower, and by the time you got in there, 40 of them were fucking something else, you know, and you're like, and then they have to mix batches, right? And not everything's blue dream, and that's part of the thing that I was seeing was things that were supposed to be labeled as, you know, blue dream, or supposed to be labeled as, you know, OG Kush, were getting mixed in with,
Yeah,
you
right.
know, banana Kush or fucking the white or whatever, like 6 different strains in one batch because the previous person didn't do their job to keep the clones correct. And so I was able to, like, you know, speaking of, like, you know, oh, I don't like the way you look. It was like, well, I got to know plants like ladies and like the back of my hand, and like I
Right.
can know and smell by
Profiles. It's like a fingerprint.
By stem rubs of like, oh yeah, that's Blue Dream. I can tell by the stem rub. That's that's Lemon G.
Yeah.
No question, that's fucking Lemon G. I can tell that one. Week one of flower, no question. Things like that. So it was like I was able to like get to know strains before breeding, and then I did breeding for another company and got to play on their dime and learn on their dime, and get paid to learn what kind of breeding was all about while I was growing for other big grows and doing my own thing. But like lots of different strains, getting your hands on lots of different strains, just seeing lots of different strains makes a big difference on like your decision making. Like, how do you cull and veg? It's like, well, I've seen a few plants to know I don't like that fucking characteristic, and it's got to go. I don't want that in my line, And they're like, whoa, that was quick.
It gets to be like a fingerprint, right? Every smell is different, and you see them enough. We're almost out of time, but one quick anecdote. I remember one of the last places I worked, they had a strain labeled Bubba Kush, and it was clearly the sativa pheno of flow. Like two different, it was a floral, wasn't at all coffee, wasn't at all kush, didn't grow like a kush, was tall and spindly. And they were just like, that's how we bought it. That's what it is. And right. I just wanted to go through the grow and change the tag on everyone. If there were ever a grievous error, it's that one. And it bothered me to my core because I knew they weren't even close to the same profile, the same plant. Like, we're not even talking the same language. And it was just like, man, that's how little you care. That's how little you care, is that it's super obvious and you won't do anything about it.
Right. Like, you know her name and you're calling her by a different name. And you, as like somebody who's known her for so long, it drives you crazy because like other people are trying to get certain effects. Like certain people like this certain plant and they want these. They're expecting these things, and you're giving a patient something else that might make them not. They're not going to feel the way that. It's
not going to be what they're looking for.
That's not the medicine they're looking for.
It's just
so that's a disservice to the community.
Like, I'm so anal about lineages and strains, and like, when you know, and when you run into them again in another commercial grow, because it's almost the same cut that gets passed around. So you just know. And I knew immediately, and I was just like, this one bugs me. Because if somebody's looking, it was a kush. That's what offended me, is when you tell somebody something's kush and it's not, it's some little heavy sativa. Like, we're not even on the same planet. Anyway, man, that hour went by absolutely quick. I thank you so much for stopping by. We have to do this again sometime. This went so well. Where can people find you? Where are you at? Where are you located? Website, info?
Yeah, we're heartandsoilproject.com is the website. heartandsoilproject.com/shop will get you directly where you want to go. Stickers equals seeds. So if you're going on the website, you're purchasing stickers, you're getting a free pack of seeds that come with those. At Heart and Soil Seeds, at Heart and Soil Project, at Heart and Soil CBD. We have a bunch of different Instagrams. If you go look it up, it's probably us if it has our logo. So we're just trying to get ahead of the Instagram curve. If you're listening to this live, we'll do half price packs through the end of the weekend. So hit me up. We'll do half price packs on anything we got in stock. B. Anderson at heartandsoilproject.com is going to be my email. That's the best way to get in contact with me, or through the Discord. Discord link is in our bio in all of our pages. So hit me up and we'll get you hooked up. We got a lot of different things, from super cushy things to super sativa things and everything in between to play with. So I really appreciate you having me on, and it's fun to like talk with somebody who gets it,
Thank you. Thank you for coming on, man. That was awesome. Yeah. And it's so funny that we worked at the same place.
I know. And that's,
we just dropped the flavor packs. If you haven't heard about this yet, $210 value. It's essentially $120. I've curated a couple of packs of each flavor. So we have a citrus pack, the poopines pack, an exotic pack that's just complex flavors. So whatever you're looking for, you can get 3 packs of kind of a similar flavor profile at a discounted price. Can't beat it. We're also about to launch our March mystery bags, www.terpfiend.com, TERPFI3ND. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so much fun. Yeah. We'll do it again sometime. Have a great one. Peace, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Later.